is a shingle tree.
Yeah, it's a cedar tree, but what does it have growing on its base?
Poison.
Poison ivy.
Is that really poison ivy?
That's really poison ivy. Yeah, and this one actually still has some fruits on it here. So here are the sugar maple.
Oh, the helicopters.
And they're the helicopters. When they'll continue to mature and dry out, and they'll break apart. They'll break apart, I say, and it probably won't do it now, but
I think it will.
there it goes. Yeah. A helicopter. They'll do it better when they get older.
So it's an oak.
No.
Shingle again.
Yes, another shingle oak. The people who planted the trees on this campus like shingle oaks.
Shingle oak.
Many of these trees are planted, and they love shingle oaks. There's a lot of shingle oaks. It's got compound leaf. Black walnut. Compound leaves usually, well, yesterday I think it had 17 leaflets on it, but usually 13 or more leaflets. Black walnut.
But the fruit is the big
Dogwood.
Yeah, it's a young dogwood.
It's a baby dogwood.
So you really can't see the blocky bark so much because it's young, but it's got the distinctive leaves with the venation and the fruit there. So dogwood, yes.
Red.
It tends to be more 3-lobe than 5-lobe.
Okay, so we don't need game.
And this, it's not bright red on this one, but there's that red.
Red tint.
Red maple.
Oh, look at you.
Some of you've noticed the exfoliating bark. Sycamores aren't the only trees with exfoliating bark.
Exfoliating
Now,
bark.
This tree has compound leaves like the black walnut, but not as many leaflets. So that is one leaf, and usually it's 5 to 7 in this particular species. And notice the fruits. They kind of look like a walnut, but these are hickory nuts. This is a shagbark hickory. If you could just tell me hickory, I'd be fine.
Hickory tree.
Now, I mentioned to you, we talked about flowers, and we tend to think of flowers being these nice, showy things. Well, they are for plants that use insects as pollinators. But plants that use wind, the wind doesn't care. The wind doesn't need a reward. They don't need a sugary reward, and they don't care about color. Here are the flowers of this plant. And many trees, this is what the flowers look like. They don't look like a magnolia. Obviously, we saw how the magnolia attracts insects. Well, many trees, they don't have they don't have those nice, showy flowers. They use the wind, and they're the flowers. In the fall, when these fruits start to fall, if you park under this tree, you're likely to wind up with dents as those hickory nuts fall on the car. So another shagbark.
I like that car. State tree. That's the only one.
Tulip, poplar, state tree.
So excited about that one. It's the only one I know. A porcupine.
So
Porcupine thing.
notice that it kind of has a maple-like leaf, but it's different. Very lobed, very prominent lobes. The fruit is very distinctive. Be careful with it. It's a little bit sharp, but you get those spiky things there that dry out, and you're standing on last year's fruits. You see those down below you.
I always wondered what those were.
This is a sweet gum. This is a sweet gum. Someone noticed it's got acorns on it.
That's an acorn?
Those are acorns. You see the remnants of the flowers underneath there? Again, it's not a shingle oak. Notice the leaves are narrower. They end in a prickle, so which group is it? It's in the red oak group. Specifically, this is a willow oak.
Oh.
Notice they look like, those are willow type leaves, if you know what a weeping willow is.
Yeah.
This is a willow oak.
How do you tell the difference between that and a
Shingle oak. the leaves are much narrower. See that?
It's in the red oak family.
Is that not, Emily? Are they not?
The other ones are really narrow.
No, they're about
They're more wider.
they're about at least twice, 2 to 3 times broader than that.
Red bud.
So you better be ready.
Yeah.
Heart red. This is a red bud?
It's a red bud. So notice the cordate, sort of heart-shaped leaves, and then the very distinctive fruits. There's the fruit, and if you hold it
red
up, you
bud
can
has a
see
green bean
seeds in
looking
there.
Okay.
It's in the red oak group. Do you remember specifically what type this is? No, water oaks. White. Highly dissected leaves. If we're in the dead of
Pine
winter,
oak.
it's a pin oak. P-I-N, pin oak.
I put an E on it.
Now,
It's
this
got
has a
oak on the
compound
things,
leaf.
Did we look at these already?
You've not.
No.
Okay. So that's one leaf. But they have, when they're in fruit like they are right now, it's pretty distinctive. These will dry up and they'll fall off and they'll spin around like those helicopter type things. This is an ash.
Tree? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is an ash. The wood is often used, they've got really nice hardwood, many baseball bats, not all, some of them made of maple now, but historically almost all baseball bats were made of ash. Axe handles, things like that, many of them were made of ash. Middle Tennessee's famous for the cedar trees. It's really, technically, it's really not a cedar, it's a juniper, but everybody calls them cedars.
Do we know about juniper or cedar?
Cedar would be fine. So notice all the berries. So the leaves are scaled, but then this tree has berries and that tree doesn't. What does that tell you?
One's a boy, one's a girl.
That's right. The sexes are separate in this species. And so if you look, I think almost all of these, except for this lucky young lad here, are females. And I think that's the only male in this. Leaves remind you of? It's a maple-like leaf. Look at those. Look how dissected those are. This is a silver maple. And they're highly planted in new yards because they grow very rapidly. All right, but their leaves are very highly dissected. People often regret choosing to plant these because their wood is really weak and they often they get blown down by wind, lots of limbs falling off. And unlike most maples, which turn nice orange or red in the fall, silver maples just kind of turn a nondescript yellow. They don't have, the foliage is not as appealing. But
Yellow trees are still nice.
huh?
I think yellow trees are still nice.
Yeah. You gotta have the contrast. Diversity is good.
I love
right?
the fall.
Yeah, so silver maple.
What happened to the...
You know, the wood, this is weak wood, so a storm just kind of blew it down probably. Go all the way around. Those cones are pretty distinctive.
What is the kind of tree that produces like big pine cones?
Pine tree. Maybe we'll see one.
Tree.
This is a hemlock.
Big break.
Looks like catalpa leaves.
They do look catalpa-like,
With a different
but notice a different fruit. Notice the heart-shaped leaves. Notice the sort of, nutty type of fruit. This is this year's fruit. This is last year's fruit that have already opened up and the seeds have fallen out. This tree is not, it wasn't initially native to the United States. It's been introduced here, but it has become naturalized. They've done so well, they've escaped. They're kind of a weedy tree, that is, areas that have been cleared. This tree will grow very quickly in those areas, so they're kind of viewed as an invasive, weedy species, but they're here in the southeast, they've essentially become a native tree. They're worth a lot of money because the wood is used, especially in the Orient, to make sandals. They make ceremonial sandals there that they utilize there. It's called a princess tree.
A princess?
Princess tree. And they grow very rapidly, but they don't get to be huge trees. This is an adult. It's kind of lost part of its canopy as well. But you'll see them driving along roads and interstates. In the early spring, they produce large purple flowers. So if you see a pretty big tree with large sort of trumpet-shaped flowers, it's probably this tree.
I always get the two confused.
What is this, Lindsay? What did they say, Lindsay? There you go. Yeah. If you look, you'll see that it does have acorns, and you know they're narrow leaves. They're narrower. We saw the willow oak the other day, but they're 2 or 3 times wider than a willow oak. All right, I really wouldn't. This is not a natural native tree. It's a cultivated tree, but it's so common we probably need to talk about it and hold you responsible for it. Does anybody know what it is? It's a hated tree. It was a very popular tree, and then now it's kind of a hated tree because everybody planted them. They flower early spring, white, usually flowers everywhere. This is a Bradford pear. Look, there are the pears. That's as big as they get. They don't really develop into large fruits, and birds can eat them. But this is a Bradford pear. Warty bark, ratty leaves, small berry-like fruits. It's a hackberry, yeah. If you look where they join, you pull off, you'll almost always, if you got a pine, you'll get more than one needle. I mean, I can separate those out, but they're in bunches of 3 to 5, and different species of pines vary there. But this is an eastern white pine. These are the female cones, which are somewhat woody. The male cones, see if we have any, here are the male cones right here. So that's where the pollen is produced.
And the
male
male?
cones. Yeah, they're very papery and very small, inconspicuous. So they've got essentially male cones, male flowers, if you want the equivalent of there. And here are the female cones, and the seeds develop on the undersides of the cones, and the cone is closed and it opens up, and as it dries out the seeds will come out and do that helicopter thing. But so this is a pine tree, eastern white pine particularly. Logan, you can be there. You see, this is a young one and the fruits are really small, but we saw a large male one, but if you look carefully you can see the hedge apples. This is Osage orange. But we've already looked at it, but I wanted to show you one with the fruits. And there, right above your head, you see several of the fruits on that branch.
It looks.
There's a red bud.
I think this is new.
Nope, not new.
This is more asymmetric.
Is it a basswood?
It's a basswood.
Way to go!
Notice the two different types of leaves. The other type of leaf is really the fruit.
This is a black cherry tree.
But do you notice it? Yeah, this is, what oak group is it in? White. So you don't see prickles on it. So this is in the white oak group. Between
This
French
is a
fries and
pecan
Snickers bars
tree.
and pecans, they've got a. All right, let's head back.